Alrighty guys, what's up? Today we're gonna look into making DLLs. Now, before we make a DLL, we should talk about why we're making a DLL. If you don't care, you can skip in the video. I'm actually gonna timestamp this one. So, why a DLL? DLLs are cool because they allow you to inject stuff into your games, projects, whatever. That same logic can be reused in other projects. I've also heard people say DLLs are faster than other things, and I do not believe it. Why would a DLL be faster than just writing your code natively and interpreting it to IL? I don't know. But the major advantage to a DLL is that we can have code that'll run in both Unity and Unreal, probably Godot as well, or you can inject it into a game like Subnautica. For those of you that are actually in my class, you watched me do this in the class. I followed a very simple video, I'll leave a link in the description, to make a DLL injector, and I just injected my DLL into Subnautica. What a DLL does is hard to say. It's anything, right? It's just a piece of code that you can attach. The tricky part about a DLL is how do you get it to interact with your program? Because we're working directly with Unity and Unreal in this course, we can just tell it to. But if you want it to work externally, then somehow you need to either manipulate the memory of that program, so that way you're using your values, or you need to somehow hook your DLL into your keyboard or to a timer. So for the one I made for Subnautica, it's just a very simple timer. Every 10 seconds, as long as the DLL is running, it'll just take a screenshot. That's all it does. So we're going to look into how we make a new DLL. We're going to be using Writer because now that Writer is free, there's literally no excuse to use Writer. If you hate yourself and you want to do everything manually, have fun in Visual Studio. So in Writer, we create a new solution. We're going to select native C++ and we're going to create our DLL, demo DLL. Doesn't really matter. And this is fine. We want to do version 143. That's what it's going to be in Unreal as well. And we want a dynamic library, DLL, dynamic link library, not a SLL. Or I don't even know actually, but this is what we want, a dynamic library. So we're going to create our project. And we're not going to go super hard on this. I'm just going to show you how to integrate into Unity and Unreal. One of the applications that would be a good one is if you've played Subnautica, when you press F8, there's a pop-up that says, how do you feel about the game, and whatever. That would be a great DLL because you could have your system, or your DLL rather, that connects to your web server and sends it information. That way, and Subnautica's devs, Unknown Worlds, are literally having this exact issue. They're moving from Unity to Unreal. If they made that as a DLL in the first place, they would not have to make the system again. It would just exist. But because they almost certainly didn't, because why would you, they will have to make it again. So let's just take a look at what we've got to start. We have our DLL over here. This is the main thread, so it's what's called when it either attaches or threads into a process, when the thread stops or it detaches from a process. Nothing crazy. I don't know a whole lot about DLLs. It honestly should be its own course. But pretty much what we need to do is we need to define a function. You can create new classes as well if you want. It's literally just like every other C++ project you've ever been in. But there is one major difference. So I'm going to create two demo functions here. We're going to make one that's called void set number, and it's going to take in a parameter. And then let's make a variable for it so you can remember as well. A float number. I'm not going to bother with an H file. Or let's call it num so we don't have to write more stuff. There it is. And then let's make another one that's called get number. And this is incredibly lazy, and if you're making a DLL for just this one purpose, that's questionable. But we have our two functions, right? Now in C++, when you make a function, you generally want to define it externally somewhere else. And you'll do this in an H file commonly, but I'm lazy and I just want to show how this works. So we're going to declare them up here. Set number, and then float number. And then we have our get number. So we define our two functions, which again you normally do in your H file, and then you declare them down here. And if you didn't know this, the way that C++ works is your functions need to be declared before you can use them. So if I say set number in here, it'll work. But if I was to comment this out, it would no longer work. See? Because it reads code top to bottom. And that's also why we generally make H files, to separate these from their actual implementations. Okay, so all we need to do to actually get this to work in our DLL is to say extern C, and then underscore underscore DCL spec. There it is. And then DLL export, like that. And we're going to do this for both of them. And that's literally it. So now these are both external functions that we can access externally. That's it. So in theory, this is it. We've created our DLL. There's nothing special here. Once you've made your DLL at the top, we want to build it. But how do we do this? You press on the hammer over here to build. Once it completes, there it is, we can navigate to our project files, open in Explorer, and then when I go to the project over here, demo DLL, you can see the SLN, that's how I know I'm in the right place, x64, because if you look up here, x64, debug, and then there's the DLL. So this is the thing we need to import into both Unity and Unreal. Okay, so we're in the Potion project for today. For those of you that are actually in my class, you have access to this stuff, but I'm not going to push these changes because they're unnecessary. You have 2 DLLs in here already. But in the plugins folder, make sure you make a plugins folder. This will not work unless it's in the plugins folder. You're going to drag and drop your DLL into the project, just like that. That's it. Remember the name of your DLL. Then we go to our script that we need to create, which I've already done, just to save this some time. Here it is, demo DLL. And then I just attach it to a game object in a scene like that. So that way we actually have a way for it to exist in the world. Whenever I press play, it'll do something. Now, let's open our DLL, and here it is, and also our script at the same time. So what we want to do is pretty straightforward. Let's just have it in start, because this is purely for demo purposes. Firstly, we need a way to actually access our exposed functions. So what we're going to do is we're going to say DLL import, and then the name of our DLL. So this is... oh, okay, it remembered it for me. Thank you. I forgot. Private static extern, and then this one is going to be set number, and then we need a float number, and then we make another one, DLL private static get number, just like that. And you can see these functions are replicated. Okay, so then what we need to do is really straightforward. We're going to just say set number, and then let's put in 7, and then let's say get number, and then we're going to print it. So if our DLL is working, then we should be printing the number that we have achieved. That's it. And this is also what I'm saying with our DLLs. I guess because we'll do toString, and then we'll add in our culture mode invariants. That way we're not getting complained at. There we go. Okay. I don't think external function calls are really faster than just, making them. At least not necessarily. But there we go. You can see in console here, it does actually say the number 7. So we know for a fact our DLL is working, and this is how you create a DLL in Unity. Next, let's look at Unreal. Okay, now it's time to get our DLL working in Unreal. But in order to be able to do this, we actually need to start by creating a binary. So you go to your binaries folder, and you need to be in your folders to do this. You go to binaries, Windows 64, and then you just, in quotes, inject your DLL. So there it is. There's my new DLL, demo DLL.dll. That was step 1. It's the exact same idea as dragging into the plugins folder. We've now injected it into our project. Finally, we need to obviously open our project, but really what we need to do is we need to be creating scripts. So in the public section, I'm just going to do this the very lazy way, and I'm going to create a manual H folder. I'm going to say demo DLL.h, and then I'm going to go to the private one. Just that way I don't have to deal with all the loading times, and we're going to create another one that's called demo DLL.c++. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did in Unity. So I'm going to open up from the H, and oh, I don't have any of the actor stuff. Ugh. Okay, I'm going to pause the video really quick. I'll be back once I add in all the basic actor information. I forgot that we needed. Okay, we're finally back. So what we need to do from here is we just need to get our functions in the same way we did last time. It's pretty straightforward. What we need to be doing is we need to declare a function. So we're going to say type def, creating a type definition of a void function that's going to be called our, I don't know, this is a class type, if you will. You can reuse stuff. In our case, there are two different functions, so they need to be different. So we're going to say this is our set number pointer, and then we're going to do a float is what we need. We don't want a float pointer, we literally just want a float. So you see it matches the definition. We have a void and we have a float. Then we need to create a function for it. So we're going to say our set number pointer set number. We're going to do the same thing. And if you have functions with like matching definitions, it's a lot like when you go up here and then you say declare one param. It's a lot like this, and then you say f delegate int 32, and then you give it a name, and you can say like Jeff. It's almost exactly the same thing as that, but it's yeah, it's with the DLL, and you do it inside of your class instead. Oh, cool! It just knew, except it messed up this part. Yep, that's exactly it. So we're returning a float, and then there's no parameters. That's it. The last thing that we need to do is we actually need to hook into our DLL. We need a handle. So we're going to make a void pointer, meaning it's literally anything, and it's going to be called a DLL handle. That's it. Next, we can head over to our C++ file. So we have all of our things. We can declare our default constructor. It doesn't actually matter. Now that I think about it, you can probably add this into your constructor, but we're going to do it in a begin play. We're going to create an f string called DLL path, and we're just going to bind it to our fpaths.combine, and then we're going to do fpaths at the project directory with the text, and this is pretty much going to be the same every time, but you're going to say binaries. Jesus Christ. Okay, it is the directory that we put the DLL in. There's nothing that surprising there. Anyways, we're going to bind our DLL handle to the f platform process get DLL handle of our DLL path, like that. Oh, sorry, we need to do it like that. There we go. Okay, and then if the handle exists, then we bind our functions. So it's just we don't need this anymore. So I'm gonna close that. Set number equals, and then we need to do our casting to a set number pointer, which is the type of our f platform process. Get DLL export, DLL handle, and then we're gonna say set number. Then we're gonna do our get number, say get number pointer f. That's it. Okay. Whew, okay, then all we need to do is we need to do the exact same demo that we just did. So we're going to say set number, and we're going to set the number to 7. Then we're going to do a UE log number with our float of get number. Oh, they keep coming, dude. Okay. This part of the video is going to need to be cut so much, but as you can see, it says number was 7 when I press play. And all the zeros are because I printed it as a float. Alright, God.